Hello class. This is going to be my video for JavaScript stuff, and I was thinking it'd probably be easiest if I just started from scratch and created an HTML page, threw in some CSS, um, and got basically some basic content in a dummy page, I guess, to begin with, and then to um, basically look at the assignment and see the things that I think are important to learn about JavaScript, and then try to create a page that has all those things, um, with a focus on how do you make stuff on the page change based off of the person viewing the page, clicking on things or moving their mouse over things or things like that. Um, and in creating this video and actually thinking about what to cover and everything, I think I need to rewrite the assignment for like next time I teach the class, because it isn't very clear that that's um, I think the purpose of learning all this JavaScript for the front end development, web development that we're doing. Because the assignment itself just has a list of like learn how to do an array, make a variable, things like that, without I think without like an overarching goal in mind, um, or not an explicit one. And so my intent was that the explicit, or I guess the implicit goal is that you would be able to make things on a page change. So I'm going to show how to do that. Um, some of the early stuff will probably be review for some of you. But I do know that some people are still sort of struggling with just the basic concepts of like what is HTML, what is CSS and all that, and what is JavaScript and what they're used for and all that. So I'm going to cover all that stuff. This video probably will be edited, like I'm doing a recording in Zoom, but there will be moments where I'll probably speed it up or something like that, because I'm gonna try to go at this super fresh, and like um, there are moments with JavaScript especially that it's like I don't know these things. I don't have them memorized, on like the syntax and everything. So I'm gonna be looking up stuff. I'm gonna be using W3 Schools a lot. I'm gonna write a plan. So let me get started. I'm gonna share my screen, and so I've got VS Code here already, and what I had done was I basically deleted everything that was in this test folder here. Um, this is basically the course's website, right? It's got the assignments, the resources and all that stuff, the index. And in here, I created a folder called test, or, like 2 years ago or whatever, deleted everything in there to prep for right now. And what I'm going to do here is basically create a new folder. A new file. You can do that in multiple ways. You can either right click and just do new file, or you can click on this plus file button. And because this is the home page, I'm calling it index.html. So for some teams, I've noticed that some of the names that you've been giving these files, like let's say I create another one that I'm going to link to it, Mark's page or something like that, right? I've noticed that some of you have been using names like that markcss.html or something like that. You should try to make all your file names lowercase, and it's just a good practice to do. It doesn't matter so much anymore, but it used to be that depending on the web server, if it was a Linux or Unix web server, then capitalization would matter. And so if you told somebody to go, like if you were verbally telling somebody to go to a URL, um, go to whatever .com/hello.html, if that hello was capitalized and you didn't tell that person, and there might be some confusion there and everything. So it's just better practice to make everything lowercase. And you all should go back and do that to your pages and everything. That includes folder names. So this folder name is called test with a lowercase t, and I've noticed some of you have been using uppercases or capitalization for some of your folder names and stuff like that. Also, like for technically, I would say you should have your GitHub repository name also all lowercase. And so, somebody typing it in on the web and the address bar doesn't have to mess with capitalization and everything. Again, it doesn't matter so much anymore. Like, it'll probably still work, but if somebody can't get to your site, it might be because of capitalization issues. Anyways, we got index.html, and the shortcut in VS Code for a basic HTML template page is just a exclamation point. So I hit that, and it created all this code here for me already. I'll give it a title like I don't know, test JavaScript stuff. All this stuff is fine. Just a brief overview. This meta tag is telling the web browser what character set to use. There's a whole bunch of different standards in terms of character sets, like if you use a non-standard keyboard or if you are not using English, for example. But then those character sets also include like special keys, brackets and things like that. And so, or characters, I mean. And so some character sets have those brackets and special sort of characters in different orders and everything. And so basically the world has decided that the standard one is going to be this one. You technically don't really need this line because it's sort of implied that this is what you're going to be using or what is being used, but it's good to specify stuff, and the default, if you just do exclamation point, it creates this line for you, so you might as well keep it. This other line is also something you don't technically need either. This is for basically backwards compatibility with browsers and everything. So the way the web works is like there's a standard for how things are supposed to be done in the web, on the web, right? When you're creating a web page or whatever, and then all these browsers like Chrome or Microsoft Edge or Firefox or Safari, all these companies have created their own browsers to then interpret HTML and CSS and all that stuff. And some browsers do it differently. Some companies decided, well, we're going to make them look this way instead of this way and everything. And in some cases, some companies have decided not to, I guess, make their browsers compatible with all the different standards that the Web Consortium have said that browsers should be compatible with. And this is actually more of a problem when you have basically been, I guess, the web's only been around for like 30 years now, 25 years now. And especially in the early days, all these browsers were doing things that weren't necessarily compatible with each other because, like Google would be like, well, yeah, we'll use these standards, but then we want to add in a whole bunch of other things that our browser is going to support. And then Microsoft would be like, yeah, we're going to do the same thing, but we're going to support different things than the Google has supported and everything. And so then you end up with basically browsers with different compatibility issues with different types of code that somebody could be doing as a designer and everything. And this line just makes it, just basically is one of those issues. It's just like, I think specifically Internet Explorer, because Microsoft basically discontinued Internet Explorer and are using Edge now. I think that's what this line means. I don't actually know for sure, but I'm pretty sure it's a compatibility issue. Then this line is kind of important too, but again, you don't actually need it technically for a website to work or a web page to work. This one is for like as we've moved into smartphones and tablets and things like that, we have different size browser windows, and this is meant to be like, okay, just setting like the default for the window size and everything, or what the browser should, or what the page, I guess, will be rendered defaultly. This line is important, title. so that's the title of the page. That'll show up in the on the tab name. And then just as a recap, every web page should have, this is what type of page it is, what type of document it is. Here's where the HTML starts, here's where it ends. Here's where the head starts and here's where it ends. The head is all the meta stuff that doesn't appear on the page itself. The body is where the actual content of the page in the browser window is going to be, right? So so we want to just throw in, I don't know, a couple of paragraphs or something. Let's throw in a header, heading 1, like, okay, here's the test JS page, and we'll throw in a paragraph for like, let's say, some, actually, I'm gonna go to lorem ipsum, right? Except cat cat lorem ipsum generator, because it's funnier. And just grab these 2 paragraphs, throw them in here, just so that we have some content to play around with. And I'll turn word wrapping on. Right, so we have these 2 paragraphs, and I need to actually put them in paragraph tags. Okay, so we have these 2 paragraphs now. And actually, as you're coding and everything, one thing that you might want to get in the habit of, you notice that the tabbing is different, or the indenting is different, because I was doing copy and pasting and everything. If you right click in VS Code, you can do format document. It's also Shift Alt F, it looks like, and it'll automatically sort of indent things intelligently for you and all that. For really long lines, it actually throws in a carriage return here. But when you view it on the web, a web browser, if it sees this, it won't actually treat it as a carriage return. It's just going to treat all this as just one space. And so the word wrapping will work no matter what size the browser window is and everything. A web browser will only actually throw in a carriage return or a break if you have the break tag in, so the fact that VS Code is sort of throwing in a return here, it's just so that it doesn't have to do word wrapping, but I have word wrapping on, so it doesn't really matter. But anyways, we got 2 paragraphs here and an H1 test. Okay, so let's throw in some, I'll throw in some CSS just to begin with. Yeah, we'll do a style block, I guess. And let's make all the paragraphs, let's all make the paragraphs like Arial text or something like that. Font family, Arial. Actually, yeah, Arial. We'll do this. Arial, Helvetica, Sans serif. So it does this in order. So like it tries to find Arial on the user's computer and use that. If it can't find it, then it'll use Helvetica. If it can't find that, then it'll use the just whatever sans serif font the user has on their computer. Everyone has these, so it doesn't really, so probably will never get this far. But that's basically when you say a font family and you have multiple ones in there, it'll try the first one first, and then the second and the third, and so on. So now if we were to view this, save it, and view it, we've basically got test.js page and 2 paragraphs, right? And the paragraphs are in Arial. Okay. Okay, that looks good. So I guess a real quick recap of style sheets a little bit is so there's a reason why it's called cascading. So it starts at the top and it sort of waterfalls down, and it'll look at what you've defined globally first, and then it'll look at what you've defined locally, and then it'll look at what you've defined like very specifically right there in the moment. So what I mean by that is there's 3 ways to include a style sheet, and one way is to link to it. Here, yeah. So we'll change this to JS page.css. So one way is to link to an external style sheet .css file, and then another way is to include a style block, and then another way, let's do one here, is to do an inline style like this, style equals, and then we'll change this just to show you like what the cascade means. So let's change this to Times New Roman, and if I were to hit save here, then over on the right, you can see that this first paragraph is back to Times New Roman, even though this paragraph is Arial. So what happens is Chrome or whatever will read this page, it'll go down, and it'll say, okay, first I'm gonna grab this this CSS file. Doesn't exist yet because I haven't created it. And then it'll get to the style block and say, okay, all paragraphs should be Arial. And then it'll go down here and then it'll get to this paragraph and say, okay, all paragraphs are Arial, except this one says actually that this one's going to be Times New Roman. And so it takes this, applies it to this, but then sees this and then applies this, overwrites that, right? If I were to do something like, the reason why this is sort of important, and actually, so one thing that VS Code did here was it didn't throw in a semicolon here, which I think it should. But anyways, we've got font family, blah, 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 blah. And let's do like, I don't know, color red, something like that. And so now it's red. So it's inheriting this and then applying this and overriding anything here, and applying anything new also, right? So this thing is new because I didn't specify color up here. But let's say let's specify color in this JS page.css. So in here, I'm going to create a I'm going to create a new file. And actually, okay, so something that I think you should do also, or get in the habit of doing, is to put all your CSS files in a CSS folder and put all your JavaScript files in a JavaScript folder. So in here, in this test folder, I'm going to create a new folder called CSS. And in that folder, then I'm going to create a file called jspage.css. And in this, I'm going to say paragraphs are color green or something like that. Yeah, green. Right. So now if I hit save here, then I think on this page, you save this one. Did it work? Oh no. So I need to update this link. This link is looking for a page located at the same location as this HTML file. And that page doesn't exist because it's in a folder called CSS. So in here, I need to specify that folder name, CSS, like that. And then hit save. And then the second paragraph here should be green, and it is. So what's, again, what's going on is it's grabbing whatever is listed in this style sheet first, this external style sheet first, and that's saying, make it green. And then it's going down the page, right? It's seeing this, okay, make it Arial. And then on this one, actually make this one red and Times New Roman instead. But I didn't specify this one. So this one inherited the stuff from the page and from the block, right? So that's what's going on here. I think maybe a real quick intro to the concept of rows and columns with div tags. I know some people were struggling with that. I'm just gonna do a simple row and column and everything. So like you basically have divs within divs, I guess. Actually, I guess we'll use Bootstrap. Let's create a let's use the Bootstrap class container. So this just means there's like this particular division or section of the page is going to be a container, which means it'll be like basically a box, right? And within this box, we're going to have a bunch of rows and columns. So we're going to throw in a row here. And then we're going to throw in a column. Oh, look, there's like, I have the GitHub Copilot or whatever installed right now. So it's trying to do all this autocomplete for me and everything. So we'll throw in a column here, right? And then close this guy. And let's throw in another column. So what I've done here, I'll format this, make it look better. Okay, so what's going on here is there's a div, which basically means a new section, a part of the web page that is a thing, right? An object. And it's going to be a container. Within that container is a row with 2 columns in it. We can duplicate this too. So this functions very similarly to the table tag, the table element. So now I've got basically a container. It has 2 rows in it. Each row has 2 columns, right? I can type in like hi by here, there, and we'll see what that looks like. On the right hand side, it's just 4 divs basically, because I haven't yet linked to Bootstrap, and so it sees this and says, okay, this is supposed to be a column. Or actually, it doesn't say that. It just says, okay, this has a class call, but it doesn't know what that is yet because I haven't actually linked to the Bootstrap thing. So let's actually link to the Bootstrap thing. So that's just at get bootstrap, getbootstrap.com, and we can just grab this. No, wait, let's do. There's an intro installation docs. Sorry, it's like buried. Okay, so the place I like to go to is in the introduction of the getting started, which I think should be its homepage, but it isn't. But this has good instructions for how to include Bootstrap and everything, and the sort of the latest version and everything. So here's a standard page and everything like what we had before, and then to actually include it is to include these lines here, right? So we will do that. This link. Throw that in the head. And it should go above any other style things that you have applied. So it's going above this JS page.css because it's going to load this stuff first. See, it's loading this file, basically this file. And within here, within Bootstrap probably has a P defined as well. So it's going to load that up first, and then it's going to overwrite very specifically with like make it a green paragraph and make the whatever. What do I have in here? Yeah, just make it green, and then it's going to say, okay, now make them Arial or sans serif, right? So it's going to cascade. So like it's going to grab whatever Bootstrap says for paragraphs first, and then it's going to grab this, and then it's going to grab this, right? So anyways, so it's important the order that you put these in. So because Bootstrap is like this, it's you go from top to bottom. You go more globally to more locally, and so you start with something that's like super generic, which is Bootstrap, and then something that is generic to like your website, and then something that's generic to the whole page, and then something that's specific to this very specific element, right? So that's the order you put them in, and then also on the Bootstrap thing, this script for the JavaScript stuff that Bootstrap comes with. And this is located in the body. So we'll go down here, and actually they suggest you put it at the very end. So there's the Bootstrap script. And the reason why you do that at the very end is you kind of want, a lot of times scripts will refer to elements that are on the page. And again, Chrome or whatever is reading this page from top to bottom. And if it gets to this script, like let's say you put the script up here, and let's say in the script it says, okay, make paragraphs do this, it'll try to do that, but then nothing will happen because it hasn't actually gotten to the paragraph yet, right? It doesn't know that there are paragraphs on the page yet. And so you generally want to put scripts at the bottom. And so if it's doing anything on load, like when the script itself is loading to the page, then those things will actually exist on the page for it to do those things too, right? So you want the script at the bottom. So now if I hit save here, then you notice that the preview here, suddenly these two high and by actually are columns now, and here and there are columns now. And that's because row and call and container are all defined within Bootstrap. Again, I know some people are behind. If you haven't yet, I highly suggest you read W3 Schools does everything basically. So like the tutorials, for HTML, you want to read the first, like, I don't know, 9 or so. For CSS, you want to read the first probably 6 or 7 or so at least. From there, you just click on the ones that you think are interesting or things that you want to learn how to do, right? We're working on JavaScript, we're about to work on JavaScript, but for Bootstrap, you want to read basically the first 6 or so, and then start clicking on things that you think would be interesting to add to your pages. So that's basically how you would learn the stuff, I think. Or you would see a page like this, and you're like, how do they make this page? And you go and view, you look at its source and try to figure out what sorts of classes it's defined in style sheets and all that stuff to figure out how it's doing things. And I hope I don't need to cover like classes and all that stuff, because we talked about that earlier. But anyways, okay, so finally we have a page ready to just throw in some JavaScript stuff, right? And one of the things I want you to do is to basically learn how to create a variable, set a variable, how to create a function, create an array, and do a loop. I'm going to focus on like probably the most important stuff. We'll get to a loop if we can, but I'm not sure we'll get there actually. So let me write down. I'm just gonna write down here like what we're trying to do. And let's create a unordered list. Throw in a list item. So we want to create a variable, right? Create an array. Create, oh wow, look, create a function. Create a class, no. Good guess though. We want to, let's say, make an element on the page change based on mouse click or something like that, right? Let me throw this into a paragraph. You generally don't want to have words that aren't encapsulated in something that tells the web browser what type of string or text we're looking at. So there's a paragraph now. These are okay because they're within list items. So list items tend to be, thought of as one sentence or whatever. But if you wanted to, you could put these in paragraphs as well, or put them in, something else. But anyways, okay. So let's save this. We've got our list of things that we want to do here. And I'm just gonna get rid of this. We will not deal with the rows and columns and all that stuff right now. Okay, create a variable, array, function, make an element on the page change based on mouse click. So let's make this paragraph. I'm gonna actually make this paragraph shorter because it's kind of long. And make this paragraph shorter. Okay, we have 2 paragraphs and all that stuff. We want to make it so that this second paragraph, I'm just making this up, so this second paragraph is gonna disappear. It's gonna appear and disappear based off of whether on you clicking on something. So in order for this to be able to do that, whatever JavaScript we make is going to need to be able to refer to this paragraph, so we know which paragraph it's making appear or disappear, right? In order to do that, it's easiest if you give this paragraph a name, and you do that with the ID attribute. So we'll give it a, disappearing disappearing P. So this is our disappearing paragraph. This is probably a terrible name because it's so long, but okay, so we've got that, and we're basically ready to go. So we're gonna do some scripting here. I guess I'll put it down here. So it's similar to the style tag. You can create a script block. What's weird is that this thing here is how you link to an external JavaScript file, and it's different than how you link to an external CSS file. You use the link tag, whereas with JavaScript you still use the script tag, so that's a little confusing. But anyways, we got our script, and we'll just say, let's say like normally an array, a variable. So a variable is basically like the name of something, like let's say speed. Like if you're driving a car and your car is going 50 miles an hour or something like that, and then somebody else is driving next to you and they're only going 40 miles an hour. Both of you have a speed, right? So, but the values are different. One's 50 and one's 40. And so a variable is, you could think of it as like an attribute, or the name of something that has a value to it. So the speed equals 50 in your case, and then speed equals 40 in that person's case, but the variable name is speed, and then the value is 50 or 40, right? So in JavaScript, there's multiple ways to create a variable. The most simple one is to use var. Like x, we'll do speed equals 50. Like that would be one way of doing it. There's also, in more recent versions of JavaScript, it's sort of suggested that you use let instead, or const instead of var. It has to do with like memory allocation, and also variables being accessible outside or inside of functions. For this class, it really doesn't matter, like the complexity of stuff that you're going to be doing. It really doesn't matter. You could, because we're all beginners, or most of you are beginners, you could just stick with var, which stands for variable, right? But I think technically the sort of agreed upon thing these days is to use the word let, which basically does the same thing, except that it keeps the scope of the variable it does scoping better, I guess, with the variable. Again, none of this really matters until you get into more advanced stuff and everything. So you don't actually need to know really what this means and everything yet. But if you plan on getting into programming and all this stuff, you read up on var and let and everything, and get in the habit of using let. So that we're doing let speed equals 50. And I was just using that example, the car example and everything, but actually I want to back up and like not use that example. Let's just do something for this page. So like we're using, I don't know, cat theme page. And so let's set like cat name. Wow. Yeah. The VS Code, GitHub Copilot and all that stuff is like auto completing mittens. We'll go with mittens. And okay, we can do something like, okay, how am I gonna like demo this? Let's make it so that if you click on, like, let's say if you click on a button, this whole paragraph is going to be replaced with the word mittens. Okay, so we have this variable cat name equals mittens, and we need to create a function of some sort that gets executed when when some button gets pushed. Actually, let's create a button. I think if this, okay, I'm trying something out. I'm not exactly sure if this is the right way of doing it, but I'm going to create a button. We're going to call it I don't know, click here for cat. Let's see what that looks like. Click here for a cat. Actually, let's put this button. We're going to put the button up above the paragraph. Okay, so now we have this button. Click here for cat. Nothing happens when you click on it yet. And we want to make it so that when you click on it, this paragraph changes, right? So we need basically a function that does that. And actually, in HTML, there's certain events that you could attach to elements, I guess, like mouse events and everything. We could look these up. Let's do that actually. So, one thing to do, probably like a way of doing that, is to hop into here and do a search for like we want button events or something like that, and see what happens. Make your own buttons function. These are ads, so be careful when you do a search in W3 Schools, because like it does a Google search, right? But the first few are ads, and will take you outside of the actual W3 Schools site. So you actually want to scroll down and look at basically these guys. On click event is probably what we want. Yeah, let's look at that one. So here's an example: button on click my function. So that's basically what we want. So this word on click, there's certain things that are similar. And actually, if we click on this HTML events, we can see the list of them. You read these down, read these and everything, and see what they all mean and all that stuff. Okay, so let's go back to an onClick. All right, onClick equals my function. We'll just grab that specifically and throw it into this button here. So when this button is clicked, it's going to execute this function called my function, which doesn't exist yet, and it'll make this paragraph change. So we're going to change this. Instead of my function, it'll be like change paragraph, change par, change paragraph. And that means we need to make a function, so we know what that is and everything. I think it's just the function tag, or function. there's change para. And then in a function, it's similar to like, you know, this saying the p styles within this brackets. When you create a function, it's also within brackets, and anything in the brackets is what's going to get executed when change para is executed. And this is just declaring it. This thing is a function. And so what we want to do is change this when change function is executed. So we'll do something like we need to know how to refer to this, right? So it has an ID, and we can refer to it by ID. And actually, there's this thing called get element by ID. And actually, so I'll show you what that looks like on here. Get element by ID. Add. So you basically have, okay, so in JavaScript, you refer to different parts of the document. So this whole page is considered a document, and web pages follow this thing called a document object model, where like you basically have, think of it as like a tree. You have like a document, and within the document are these objects. So you have like these sort of branching parts to the page, I guess. So here will be an object within this other object, and within that object are smaller objects. And so the way you would refer to these objects, so let's say you've got the document, and then within it you've got like this paragraph, and then within that you've got this, you know, sentence or whatever, right? The way you would normally refer to those things, and each of those things would have a name, let's say. So let's say this paragraph, or even if it doesn't have a name, you would have like, you would say, okay, code or computer, look for the document, and then paragraph 1, and then sentence 2, or something like that, right? And the way you would actually use notation to refer to all that, you would type in document dot, and like paragraph 1 dot sentence 2. But that actually won't work, because paragraph 1 and sentence 2 isn't how you actually refer to those things. But you use this, basically what's this thing called this document notation, basically, right? So we would use something like document and then get element by ID. And then we need to tell it like what the ID name is. And so the name of the ID is this disappearing P. Wow, look at this. Man, I swear this GitHub Copilot thing, it's a free trial right now, but it ends after August, I think. I don't know if it's worth it, but look at it, like it automatically created this whole function for me. Okay, so what's going on here is it's saying this function is getting executed, and it's saying, okay, what I want you to do is look for this thing, look for the document, which is itself, basically this whole page, and then get whatever element has this ID, which happens to be this paragraph, right? Because it has this ID. So again, an element is any tag, basically, is an element, right? So this whole thing is an element. This is an element. This is an element, right? So get whatever element has this ID. That's what this is doing. And then specifically, the element, the thing that we want to edit of that element is the inner HTML. So like the things that are within the element tag, which happens to be this p tag. So it starts here, and then the closing p tag is here. So anything within this opening and this closing is called inner HTML. And change it from whatever is in here to this instead. I am a cat named Catname, which we have Mittens, and I am a good cat. And if we hit save here, it should work, although I don't actually know if JavaScript works in the preview of VS Code, but I'm going to click it. Oh yeah, it worked. I am a cat named Mittens and I am a good cat. That's essentially the most important thing that I want you to learn about JavaScript and using JavaScript to edit elements on a page. You can do a whole bunch of different things. You can like change the style of it too. Let's do that. So let's get element by ID, blah, 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 inner HTML. We're gonna not just do that, but also instead of inner HTML, we're gonna change the style of something. And let's try, let's make it blue or something like that, purple or something like that, right? So I think it's style dot color. I think that's right. Let's see what happens. Yeah, okay, good. So, you're saying you're changing the style of it, and then this is the actual property that you're changing, and then you set it to a value. So other things that I wanted you to learn how to do is create an array. Here, let me format this so it makes it better, prettier. Okay. Let's do, instead of cat name equals mittens, we're going to do an array of cat names. So cat names equals, and then we've got mittens. We'll do Cujo. That's a dog name. Whatever, right? Whatever. Okay, so those are our cat names. And we're gonna change, if we were to do something like this, cat names and then like 1, I think, so this would refer to the specific item within the array cat names, and an array starts at 0. So mittens is 0, Cujo is 1, and whatever is 2. I think this will work. So cat name's 1. So if I click this, and I am named I, and I am a good cat, that didn't work. All right. So how did I did not format it right. Need brackets. Okay. Okay. Hopefully that works. Undefined. Okay, that didn't work either. Oh, I think we need to pass it. Let me think about this. What's one way that this could be fixed? We could do, we need a random, right? Or if it's not random, then I think we can do, let's see if that works. I don't know if that'll work. Okay, that didn't work. All right, let's look it up. Okay, arrays. I'm just like, skimming through this right now to see. These are all ways of defining an array, accessing array, cars, 0. that should, does this need to be a constant? Nope. That's interesting. Well, you know what? I think it has to do with the scoping of these guys. Let's put these in the function itself. And check that, see if it works. Nope, cat name. Oh. Okay. I forgot to put quote marks around these values in the for each string in the array. Which actually probably would have worked if they were outside of the function. Yeah, okay. And once you have an array, you can do like random stuff. So this would be, we're gonna use a random number to figure out what the cat name is gonna be. So you could do something like, here, let's just look at random. Math.random. We want like random, let's see, random value from array. I guess array rand returns a random key from an array. Yeah. Oh, this is PHP. We don't want PHP. All right, we can work with the math random. Math random, and we want a random number 0 to 0, 1, or 2, right? So let's see what the syntax is. Between 0 and 1. Wow, this is a pain in the ass. Okay, so it does a number from 0 to 9 or 0 to 1. Returns random integer of 0 to 9. We could do that. You know, there's got to be an easier way to do random here, but I just wanted to just do something like really quickly. So we're gonna, you can do math to figure out how to do, you know, 0 to 2, but instead I'm just gonna throw in 9 values here, throw in 10 values here. We'll make mittens up here again. And that way it'll work. So now we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 items. So this is me just brute forcing this. So that means this math random is going to grab 0 through 9, and we'll do, actually we'll throw this, I think we can throw this into this. Let's see if that works. Yeah. So refresh that. Reload this. Yeah, so it's working. All right. I hope that made sense. I created an array with these 10 values in it, just because, you know, it was easy. And then I created a variable named cat name, and I made the cat name be equal to a random word from the cat names array. And then we created this function called change para, which gets executed when you click on this button, change para. And what happens is it grabs the stuff that's within the inner HTML of this element named disappearing P and changes it to I am a cat named cat name. And then it also makes it blue by changing the style property color. You know, if you can get this far, something similar to this for the JavaScript assignment, and write in your journal that you actually understand what's going on, I basically will be satisfied. Because I know it's a lot. Like for somebody who's never done any coding before, just getting this far, I think is you know, going to be pretty remarkable and powerful, because now you can look up different ways of changing different things on a page, and you can change the style of them, you can change the content of them. And when you are on just W3 schools, you know, JavaScript stuff, you can look up basically how to do a whole bunch of different things. So I would say, you know, read the first few things in this tutorial. You might want to then scroll down and read about the DOM, HTML DOM, intro, methods, document. So like if you read the intro, here's a diagram of the document object model. So the whole web page is the document, and it's got this root element, HTML, which is the, you know, everything else is within this element. And within that element are these other elements, or, you know, you can call them, think of them as objects, right? So that's why it's the document object model. And read about all that stuff and these methods. So this is a method. Basically this thing right here is a method. It's like telling it to do something to retrieve something, right? Yeah, and you know, read through a few of these, and if you can actually understand all that and try to code something really simple like this, I think that would be enough. There is other stuff, like it'd be great if you could do a loop or an if statement. So like if, you know, we could do something like I don't know, just making this up, but like if this random number was like an even number, then display the cat name in red or something like that, right? So if you could figure out how to do that, then that would be totally awesome. Anyways, I think that's enough. This is pretty long. I guess I'll probably trim some of it, because some of it is just me Googling stuff and everything. But if you have any questions, you could always post in the Discord, and I will, see you online. All right, bye.